to talk to you about dairy. Take it away, Garen. Is it on? Oh, okay, you can hear me now. Okay. Sorry about the technical difficulties. So normally I start these classes with a grown-worthy dad joke. It's entirely too early in the morning, but if you guys want one, let me know and I will give you a, you want to, okay. So in the wild, koi, you know what koi are, the fish? They travel in groups of 4. And when they're confronted with a predator, A, B, and C koi take off and run for safety, and the last one stays behind as a decoy. Yeah, see, I told you grown worthy, right? All right.
So, don't clap for that.
So today we're going to talk about dairy. And for those of you that don't know me, as Spag said, I am Grumpy G, also known as Garen. We have a small homestead in the making up north of here. And we have been building homesteads for the past 15 years now. We had to start over. We moved out here. And one of the things when you're on a homestead is you want to become as food independent as possible, right? We want to be able to create our own food. We don't want to have to be resilient or we don't have to want to rely on the system, so to say. And one thing that I've learned over the years is that of all the things you can have on the homestead, and you don't have to have a homestead to do this, but it just becomes infinitely easier if you've got your own milk access. Milk is probably the most versatile thing on the homestead. You can, aside from just drinking it whole, you can make all sorts of stuff from it that benefit you and are healthy. Now, show of hands before we go on. Who here has made cheese before? Okay, so I'm going to probably tap into you. I'm going to try to remember who raised their hands. I may tap into you and ask you to share your experiences, okay? Because that's what this is all about. I'm not here to teach you anything. I'm here to share my experience, right? Because I guarantee you there are people in this thing that have made cheese that may have more experience at it than I do, okay? So we're sharing our experiences. So the objective today is I'm going to go over and briefly show you or talk about all the different ways that you can use milk on your property. And like I said, you don't have to have milk cows or goats or anything. You can do this with store-bought milk. So the objective here, what we're going to try to learn is number one, how accessible it is. I want you to understand that you can do this. This is not rocket science. All right. If it were rocket science, we wouldn't be talking about it. And then the second way is the second thing is I'm going to go over many of the different ways you can use the milk on your homestead. So to get started, first thing, most important thing about milk, quality matters. And the closer you are to the cow or the goat, the better the results are going to be. All right, and freshness counts in this regard. You can use store-bought milk, but you will not get the same results because it's been processed. And one of the caveats when using store-bought milk is do not use ultra pasteurized milk. And if you don't know what that is, when they pasteurize the milk, they raise the temperature. Ultra pasteurization denatures the proteins in the milk, and you can't use it to make cheese. All right, it won't curdle properly, and all the bacteria has been killed off on it. And even if you have your own, it still will not work. And I know this from experience. Okay, I tried doing it as an experiment. So the next thing you need to remember about milk, as I said, freshness counts. So we want to get it and keep it as cold. You want to store it between about 36 and 38 degrees Fahrenheit. The fat content. So milk straight from the cow or straight from a goat is better because the fat content is going to be high. Any milk that you get from the store will have had the cream taken off of it, thus reducing the fat content. Okay, so the high fat, your whole milk, your raw milk, those are better for a rich flavor and a better yield. You're going to get more of it just simply because there's more fat there. Uh, and the thing about fresh milk is it will curdle better because it's full of all the natural bacteria and enzymes in it. And no matter what you do, if you get raw milk, you need to understand there are bacteria in there that are healthy for you, and they can be unhealthy for you too. This is why the USDA is basically in a war against people using raw milk. Seriously, the government is trying to force people away from using raw milk for anything because it's quote unquote dangerous. It's funny. It's funny that it's dangerous though, right? Because our ancestors used it, and somehow as a species we managed to survive. Um, Whenever you get the milk, first thing you want to do, especially we're going to talk about raw milk here for a second, all right? So when you get your raw milk, if you're going to process it, all right, if you're not using it for drinking, you're going to process it. Whatever you do, don't shake it up, okay? Treat it with kid gloves, stick it in the refrigerator, let it set. It could take a couple hours. I usually try to 24 to 36 hours to let the cream separate. And I apologize for not having any visual aids here because we had the technical difficulties. But if you've ever seen raw milk when the cream separates, you get this layer about 4 inches thick that is this golden yellow color, and it's some of the most beautiful stuff in the world whenever you see it. Seriously, it's something to behold. But you want to get that off, and that's the first step of processing this milk. But before we start processing, we have to talk about some basic equipment that we need. All right, when we start processing our milk in our kitchen, you need a heavy pot. You need a 3 to 5 gallon pot with a heavy bottom. The heavy bottom will keep it from burning, which it will do very easily. You need a wooden spoon. I like using wooden spoon. People will argue that metal spoons are better because of the bacteria transfer. It's easier to clean. I just like the wooden spoons better because I'm weird that way. I'll be honest with you. But you need a big spoon so you can stir it. You need a colander. You need a colander because you're gonna strain solids out. You need what's called cheesecloth, and if you've never seen cheesecloth, it's a loosely woven cotton cloth that is used to, you line the colander with it, you pour the milk with the curdled, the curdled cheese in it, and it strains off all that stuff. And you also use it when you're forming your cheese loaves. You need a good thermometer. This is very important, especially for people that are inexperienced. A good thermometer that will get within 1 degree. So I use an electronic thermometer, and when we get further on in the presentation, I'll give you a little hint on how to not use a thermometer. But if you're starting out, use a thermometer because the temperatures are really important here, and I'll explain that here in just a second. A spatula. You need a spatula, okay? Some things that would help also when you're processing your cheese, if you've got a food processor, like a KitchenAid food processor, lifesaver. Seriously, it will save you so much time and energy in doing it. What else we got? And then once you've cooked it and created the cheese itself, having a cheese press of some sort. You've got the Dutch press, and you've probably seen a Dutch press, you just didn't know what it was called. It's the great big one that's got the arm that the weight hangs off of, and it pushes down on what you're using the press for is you're pressing all the liquid out of the cheese to get that harder consistency of cheese, right? And then some other things, maybe yogurt jars to do yogurt. You can buy them specifically, or you can use ball jars, mason jars, like I do. And finally, molds, some sort of mold, butter mold, especially if you're making butter. The presentation on the butter it's prettier. Let's be honest, it's just prettier. That's all it does. But those are some optional things. You don't need those to make your cheese. They just make it easier and more presentable. Next thing we need to talk about is sanitation. So the key thing when you're processing milk, doing anything with milk, sanitation is paramount. Sanitation equals consistency. Now, I have not been able to find anything historically to confirm what I'm about to say. But for making cheese, I can almost guarantee you that the reason why we have so many types of cheeses in the world is because the monks that were in the monasteries who originally during the Middle Ages started making the cheese, modern cheeses, they didn't have good sanitation, and it was kind of a hit or miss. So they would get a cheese, and if it was really good, they would go, oh, well, how do we do this? So they would try to replicate it. So I guarantee you that is why there are so many different types of cheeses out there, because they didn't sanitize their equipment, and they just came up with all this different stuff. And it worked out well for us, didn't it? I mean, I don't know about you guys, but just cheddar cheese by itself, I love it. I like some variety in my life, right? So, number one, you need to store your cultures and your rennet, and I'll explain what those are here in a second. You need to explain the stuff that you're going to use to make the cheese in if it's not open yet, a dry, dark place. If you've got it open, you need to keep it in the refrigerator because it's a live being. There's bacteria and stuff in there that you make the cheese with, so you want to keep that alive. You want to wash your hands. You want to sterilize your equipment. Hot water and soap works. Bleach is better. I like using commercial sanitizers. They make these little blue tabs called Sanitabs. It's the stuff that restaurants use to sanitize their stuff. Great. You just put it in hot water, let it dissolve, and you dip it in there. Once you've scrubbed all the dirt off it and everything, you dip it in there and let it sit for a couple minutes, and it sanitizes it, makes everything nice and clean for you. So again, cleanliness equals consistency. All right. So the first thing we're going to talk about, now we're going to start talking about actually processing the cheese. This is where the fun starts. Remember I was talking about letting the cream separate from it? Once you've separated the cream, naturally, first thing people talk about is butter. All right. This is the first product that you're going to make. This is probably the easiest one. And as I said before, the cream is where all the fat is. So the better the quality of cream, the better quality of butter you're going to have. And you can literally see it whenever if you're making homemade butter, and somebody that's made butter before, back me up on this. You can literally see a difference in the color of the butter by the quality of the cream that you use. And if you're using store-bought cream, you can make butter, but it's not going to be that color that you see in all the advertisements for butter. So there's a noticeable difference there. And also, texture and how much you're going to get are also affected by that. So if you're using heavy cream, the cream off the raw milk, or you're buying it from the store, you're going to get a thicker, richer butter. And if you're using cultured cream, stuff that has, what they'll do at the store is when they get the cream, they will add bacteria to it to culture it so it lasts longer. You're going to get a tangy taste. Let's just put it like that. You can tell there's a noticeable difference in the way it tastes. It's not a bad difference. It's just different. Okay. So basically, when you're making cream, you need some way to churn it. All right. They make butter churns. You've all seen them, right? You've got the one where you've got the stick and you're doing it like that. They also make churns that fit on top of gallon mason jars. It's got a little handle. You crank it and it spins it. Personally, I like using the KitchenAid because you can do that, and I can take 4 cups of cream and turn it into butter in about 15, 20 minutes with very minimal effort. All right. And the whole process, if you want, okay, let's go over the process real quick. So you're going to separate the cream. You're going to put it into your churn. You're going to start churning it up, and what that does is it causes the fat to get together. Once you get enough, you're going to start rinsing it. You're going to start rinsing the milk off of it. Back step, one step. It's going to create buttermilk. Everybody knows, you've seen buttermilk in the store. What you see in the store is different than the buttermilk you get off of making butter because, as I said before, they culture it, and the stuff you buy in the store has a different taste. It's much richer, but you save that buttermilk, and you can use. I drink it. I use it in oatmeal. I use it in all sorts of stuff. It's very delicious. But then once you've done that and you've rinsed your butter, you can put it in a mold. Like I said, store-bought mold, great, very pretty, personally, I just take a piece of cellophane or like the clear wrap and put it in there, and I just turn it into a ball. And in the process of turning into a ball, you're pushing out the liquid in it. And the more liquid you get out of it, the harder it's going to get once you stick it in the refrigerator. All right? So any questions on making butter at this point? Sir? So, yes. So the question was, what if you don't want to refrigerate your butter? You can store it on the counter. In fact, the French have this. I can't remember the French. Yeah, a butter belt, which basically what it is, it's got water in the bottom of it, and you stick the cheese in the bell part, turn it over, and the water forms an airtight seal in it, and you can do this. Now, it will not last that long doing it that way. It won't last as long, let's put it that way. And if you're in a hot environment, say your power's out, you're trying to do this off-grid, it's going to get hot in there, and what ends up happening, I know this from experience, is the butter gets soft and it falls off the bell, falls into the water, and just makes a mess. Right? If you can use it in some place that's a little bit climate controlled, they're very great to have because like you said, no power needed whatsoever. Right? And that's the way our ancestors used to do it. Or they would put it in a crock, set it on the counter, just make sure the crock is sealed up tight. You don't want bugs getting into it. You don't want all the stuff floating around the air getting into it because it'll cause it to go rancid. Okay, the next one. We're gonna talk about making cheese now. All right, sir.
If you're gonna use a mixer.
Bread paddle. Yeah, not the hook, the paddle. The paddle. If you guys don't know, KitchenAids have all the different attachments, and they've got the bread hook, which is the little spirally thing. They've also got a paddle that's got a spatula on it that you use that will pull the cream off of the edge of the bowl and get it into the middle. And listen, guys, I'm going to give you the instructions for all this stuff. There are a ton of YouTube channels out there that do a great job of showing you how to do this. In fact, the one for making cheese, what we're going to talk about next, Milk Slinger is the lady's name. It's her YouTube channel is Milk Slinger. She does a great job of explaining beginning cheese making. All right, so I would highly recommend her. So whenever you're making, hang on a second. Oh, whenever you're making cheese, you want to acidify the milk. That's what causes it to curdle, right? And when you're going through that process of acidifying it, the type of cultures that you put in it will affect the taste. All right? And there are two types of cultures here. There are mesothelic and thermophilic, right? And these are the two to look out for. So the origins of those words, meso is based Greek for cold, thermo is hot. Mesothelic cultures are used in cheeses where you heat the milk up to no more than 105 degrees. All right, because once you get past 105 degrees, you start killing off all the bacteria. Thermophilic is used for cheeses or for milk that is heated up to 165 degrees. And at 165 degrees with milk, you're killing off all the bacteria. And the only bacteria that is in there to make the cheese is what you put in it from the culture. All right. So the mesothelic cultures are for your harder cheeses, like your cheddars and things like that. The thermophilic will give you your softer cheeses like mozzarella, ricotta, and all the soft cheeses. And the only difference is you process in the same way. The only difference is the temperature you heat the milk to. All right. And if you go online, you'll see a lot of places say mesothelic up to 102 and thermophilic up to 108. So that you'll notice there's a gap. They don't do that 4 through 7. And the only thing I can think of, the reason why they do that is because the closer you get to 105, the more sketchy it gets. So you may be at 104, and because of the milk or just some circumstances in your cooking process, it may start killing the bacteria. All right, so that's the only thing I can figure out. So Don't let that confuse you. Just understand the difference between mesothelic and thermophilic. And you can get these online. There are a ton of stores. You can get them on Amazon. They're relatively cheap. I think for $26 you can get enough cultures to make 4 gallons worth of cheese. Well, you don't make 4 gallons worth of cheese, but it's the amount of milk that you're using. So you can do it. It's relatively expensive. Now, we've talked about those 2 cultures. There's also something called a clabber, K-L-A-B-B-R. This is traditionally what farmhouses use, and they use it to make farm cheeses. What it is you literally take your milk, you take a quart or 2 of milk, and you stick it in a jar with a loose covering on it. You want the air to flow into it. You take your milk, and you literally stick it on the counter, and you let it set for 6 days. That's literally all you do. And it will turn into a yogurt-like consistency. It won't start stinking. You don't want to do it if you're in a house and it's getting up. Again, this is from experience. If you're in a house and it's up to 85 degrees in the house and you're doing this, it will curdle much quicker, and you have to watch it more, and you really, really run the risk of it going bad on you. Okay, but this is traditionally what homesteaders and settlers use to make things like cottage cheese and your paneer type of stuff, your cheesy spread type of things, the very soft cheeses. I've used it. It's great. It works. It does a great job at it. If you're looking for more variety in your cheeses, I would suggest going with cultures, the store-bought cultures, because it will give you better variety, and quite frankly, unless you've been doing it a lot, it's easy. They're way easier to use. Okay. The next thing we want to talk about is the rennet. All right, and rennet is what you use to actually curdle the milk, to acidify the milk. So the traditional rennet, if you go to the store and you buy rennet tablets, they come in a tablet form. Usually those are animal-based, all right? They take the lining of the stomach and they process it and use it to curdle the milk. The next type is vegetable-based, and they use things like thistle, and fig sap is another one. If you're in the Middle East, you've got access to figs. Fig sap works really well. But you can literally make your own vegetable rennet at home. If you've got milk thistle on your property, you can go get it and yeah, stinging nettles. And correct me if I'm wrong, but most nettles will work. Most nettles will work. It's just we've got a lot of milk thistle on our property, so that's basically what I used. But yeah, and then the other one is microbial, and this is vegetarian. And the only place you can get this is from the store. The animal rennet and the vegetable rennet, you can buy it at the store, but you can also, if you're looking to go completely off grid, you can also make it yourself. All right, and it's a very simple process for both of them. And again, there are a ton of YouTube videos out there to show you how to do this. The microbial, yeah, that's the vegetarian one.
If it's the microbial one that was made through a GMO process by Pfizer, and so if you have an issue with that philosophically, then you can look in a different direction.
Well, okay, and this is my opinion here. Okay, this is 100% my opinion. I would never use vegetarian. I would never use microbial to do my cheeses. Seriously, it's antithetical to the whole thing, in my opinion. All right. Anyway, but that again, that's me. You do what you want to do, Booze. Okay, that's the whole key here. So how do we use the rinse? Well, number one, we want to dilute them. If they come in a tablet, you grind them up, a little mortar and pestle. You put your water in there and you dissolve them. You want to stir them, and then you add them to the milk. All right, and you got to watch the temperature, because kind of like when you're using eggs in a baking thing, and you have to add liquid to it. If you heat your milk up too much, and you're making I don't know, what do you make eggs and milk with? Yeah, but you pour the hot milk in there, it literally curdles the eggs, cooks them. You don't want to do that to your milk. You don't want to heat the milk up. Final note on the rennets and everything. Again, Remember the temperatures, mesothelic, thermophilic. The next one is you can make your own rennet. You're going to experiment with it. Seriously. Get out there and just start doing it. Don't be afraid. None of this is going to kill you if you mess it up, right? In fact, if the cheese gets to the point where you shouldn't be eating it, it will let you know. And I know that from fact too. Homemade is not as precise. So again, if you want to do that, experiment with it. Okay, now we're going to actually talk about the cheese making process. Here's the thing to remember about it. It's simple. Every single cheese is made exactly the same way. It's just a variation on a theme, right? So you do one step different, and you've got a different type of cheese. So it's simple. Don't go into this thinking that it's some magical process that takes place that turns milk into cheese. All right, it's not. Here's the steps. There are 8 steps. This is all you have to remember. All right. First one is you want to warm your milk. You either want to heat it up to 102 degrees or 165 degrees. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to add your cultures. Right. You're going to take that, and it comes. Most of your cultures, the clabber is a liquid culture, and I've seen store-bought thermo and meso cultures. I've seen it in stores, but I've never used it. I've only used the type. It literally looks like yeast when you pour it in. That's how easy it is. And then once you stir that in, and you're gently stirring it. The next thing you want to do is you want to add your rennet. This is going to acidify it. Now, one thing I didn't talk about rennet, to acidify your milk. Some cheeses call for lemon juice or vinegar, and these are usually softer Mediterranean type cheeses. All right, if you're around the household and you've got that, find a recipe for it and try making the cheese that way too, because it makes some really delicious cheese. You get this if you use lemon juice in it, you get this cheese that's got a very very tangy citrusy flavor. It's hard to explain. You have to taste it. But once you've added your rennet to it, you let it sit and you let it curdle, and it's really kind of neat. If seeing it online and seeing it in person are completely different, because what'll happen is when it starts to curdle, it creates this floaty hard. It's not hard. How would you explain the once you curdle the cheese, what it's like in the pot? It's just this great big soft mass of yeah, that's a good way.
Viscous cottage cheese, or liquidy cottage cheese.
Well, that's after it becomes cottage cheese after you cut it. But I like the soft jello. That's a good way to do it. And you can literally tell if you got a spatula. I use a cake baking spatula for this part, because you want to cook it and then you cut it, and that's when you start getting the cottage cheese consistency, because the curds start breaking up and congealing better. All right. But I've got a spatula, and you can literally take it and you press the spatula down in there, and you know how it'll bend. You can literally get the spatula to bend a little bit before it breaks the tension on the surface of the curdled milk proteins, and it's really kind of cool. And of course, I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of geeky about my food sometimes. So the next step after you cut it, you want to recook the curds. You want to heat the curds up, and what that does is it softens them up and allows you to start getting them to combine better. All right. And at this point, a lot of videos you want to stir the curds, right? And the reason you're stirring them is because you want them to start congealing together. That's where the big wooden spoon comes in, or the big metal spoon. It's more for the ladies, because ladies usually don't have hairy arms like I do. Use your hands. Stick your hand in that pot and use your hand to get it, because you can literally feel the consistency change, and you can feel the consistency that you want much easier. All right, and that's the way it was done in with our ancestors and our forefathers. That's the way they used to do it. Again, if you're a guy like me, I won't do that because I don't want to subject anybody to that kind of torture after they're eating my cheese. The next step you do is you drain your whey off, and we'll talk about ways to use whey here in just a second. Salt it. You want to add a little bit of salt to it. I would recommend, I know some people are adverse to putting salt in their food. I will say this, if you add a little bit of salt to it, it will enhance the flavor of your cheese. And finally, you can flavor it. You can put spices. I mean, you've all seen this, the different flavored cheeses. All they're doing is they're adding different spices to it and doing that. And finally, you want to mold it and age it. And all aging is you're setting the cheese aside. Usually it's in some people build purpose-built cheese caves, which are little cabinets that you put your cheese in to age. I've got mine in a cabinet at home in the kitchen. I've got one right now that's aging in the kitchen. But you want to age it. You can eat certain types of cheeses straight off. In fact, next week at Self-Reliance Festival, I am doing a curd making demonstration out there. And I'm going to start it in the morning, and by 3 or 4 in the afternoon, I'm going to have samples for people to try. That's how quick it can do. If you're doing a paneer, which is a very soft block of cheese, it's an Indian type of cheese, but you can find different paneers. They've got different names for them all over the world. It's very soft. It's spreadable with a knife. That's how soft it is. Right? You can eat those right off. Your cheddars and stuff, you want them to age. The longer it ages, the more flavor you're going to get. The harder it's going to get in a lot of cases. Again, go out and find these recipes. There are a ton of recipes out on the internet that will give you the exact process of making these different types of cheese. But those 8 steps, if you just want to make a very simple cheese, those 8 steps will give you cheese at the end of the process. All right, now let's talk about whey for a second. So a lot of people view whey as a throwaway thing, right? And all whey is the liquid off the milk once the proteins have been taken out in the cheese making process, all right? And if you see it, it's a yellow color, golden color. The cleaner it is, that means the more the proteins you've gotten out of it. You can use it in baking. I use it for my chickens. I take it out and I take the chicken feed in the morning and pour the whey in the chicken feed and mix it in, and they really enjoy it. It adds a lot of nutrients to it because the whey is extremely nutrient dense. So yeah, go ahead and use that. You can use it. You do like Miss Muffet and use it in your porridge or your curds and whey. That's where that comes from. Don't throw it away though. Use it. Another thing you can use your whey for. So ricotta. Everybody knows what ricotta cheese is, right? Ricotta is Italian for twice cooked. That's literally what it translates into is twice cooked. And you take your whey and you just do the cheese making process it on a second time, and that's how you get your ricotta cheese, which is because all the proteins have been removed from the whey, it's a very soft cheese, and that's how they come up with it. And I can tell you this from experience. In fact, I was just making some ricotta about a month ago, and I did a really good job. And I'm not crowing. I'm not patting myself on the back there. I did a really good job of getting all the proteins out of the milk, so there was not very much protein in it. I got maybe 1/8 of a cup out of 4 gallons of milk. I got maybe 1/8 of a cup, whereas other times I've gotten 1/2 to 3/4 of a cup. And it's just a matter of how efficient the process is, right? And again, the ricotta you get in the store is completely different than that's probably something to remember with any of these cheeses. You're not processing it like they do. You're not adding all the additives. This is all natural. So it's going to be way different than what you get at the store. So two types of whey that you get. You're going to get sweet whey, which has a milder flavor, and that's what you get with animal rennet and the vegetable rennet. If you're going to use vinegar or lemon juice, like I said before, to make your cheese, you're going to get a more acidified, tangier whey, and it will affect. And it's important to remember that if you're using it in baking, because if you don't want a tangy cake or something, maybe use the mild way instead of the acidified way. So just keep that in mind. So the last step that I talked about was aging. All right, and the key part there with the aging process is how you store it. So there are several preservation methods for your cheese. All right, the first one is dry salting, and you literally cake it with salt and you set it aside. You wrap it in cheesecloth and you set it aside, and you let it age that way. And what the salt does is it will kill off any bacteria that gets to the cheese. It will affect the flavor of the cheese, right? Especially if you don't cut all the crust off, because as you age it, it will create a natural crust. You want that crust, all right? Because that's what helps keep the cheese from going bad over a longer period of time. So if you don't cut that salt off, you're going to get that salt in the flavor of your cheese. The next step, and this is the one that I use, brining. You're literally making a brine solution and you're soaking your cheese in it. And it's anywhere from 24 to 48 hours, just depending on the recipe you've got. But what that does, again, that salt permeates the cheese. People kind of view cheese as this hard plastic-like substance. It's not. It's very porous, and it will absorb anything that's in contact with it. It will absorb it, for the good or the bad. Just remember that too. That's another important part. And then the aging process, and again, I said people make cheese caves. I keep mine in a cabinet in the kitchen. It's all about humidity and temperature control. The less humidity you've got, the less chance you've got of bad bacteria getting into it and it fermenting improperly. And because that's all you're doing when you're aging cheeses, you're letting it ferment. And then temperature. Temperature is always, like anything with food, temperature matters, right? We want to keep it in a cool, dry. 60, 65 degrees is a great place to store your cheeses. All right, so we've done butter, we've done cheese, we've talked about the whey. Next one, yogurt making. This is probably the simplest. Once you've taken the butter off, this is probably, actually, you don't have to take, in fact, I would recommend not taking the cream off. This is probably the simplest thing, that yogurt making. So here's the steps in yogurt making. All right, I'm going to go through the steps and I'll tell you why this is important. So you want to heat the milk up to 180 degrees. Some people will tell you not to heat your milk up, and I will not argue with that. So the reasoning is you don't heat the milk up because when you do that, you kill off all the bacteria. You kill off the bad bacteria and the good bacteria. If you do that and you let the yogurt sit for longer, you'll get more probiotics into the yogurt. I heat mine up to 180 because I'm making yogurt daily. I have fresh yogurt. I make a batch. Well, I don't make it daily. I make it about every other day, every fourth day. But you heat the milk up. You cool it down to 110 degrees because, again, you don't want to kill the bacteria whenever you add it. You add your culture. Cultures for yogurts. You can buy cultures off the internet. They come, like I said, they look like yeast. You can buy different types of cultures to get different type of yogurt. You can get cultures that will make thicker, tangier Greek-style yogurt, or you can get cultures that will make a very mild, very smooth, more runny. Runny's not the right word for it. It's not as thick as Greek yogurt, but you can get that. Or, and this is the simplest way, anybody can do this. Go to the store, buy a container of yogurt. You don't want anything with any flavors in it. You just want regular yogurt. Do what?
You cool it down to?
110 degrees. 110 degrees. If you want to kill off all the bacteria, 180 will do it. That's how hot you get. Now, before I get to the end here, the heating and cooling portion. Remember I talked about having a thermometer? If you do this enough and you learn how milk reacts with heat, you do not need a thermometer. So here's the key. Write this down if you want to. If you heat milk up, once it gets to 180 degrees without stirring it, that's when the vapors, the water vapor will start coming off. You'll see it start coming off the milk, right? So once that starts happening, you know that the milk is hot enough and it's not too hot. Turn it off and you let it cool down. The way you tell if it's cool enough is you literally take your finger, wash your finger, you want it clean. You literally take your finger and stick the back of your finger into the milk. And if you can stick it in there and leave it in there for 2 to 3 seconds without it hurting, the milk is down below 110 degrees, right? And this is a good thing to know, because what we're all here for preparedness, right? What happens if the grid goes down and you don't have electricity? What happens if you break your thermometer? You're out in an austere condition and you break your thermometer and you've got no way of telling how hot something is. This is a good thing to know when you're making yogurt. So once we've added our culture, we heated it up, cooled it down, added our culture, we want to incubate it. And you can incubate it 6 to 8 hours and you'll have edible yogurt. All right. Now what I do personally, this is the way I make it. I follow that process. I take my milk and I divide it up into mason jars. I take my culture, and my culture that I use, remember I said you can go to the store to make your culture or to get your culture? I use my previous batch of yogurt. So I may buy culture once, and then I won't have to buy culture for 6 to 8 months. All right, because I constantly reuse it. I always save that last jar. I usually process it in 4 to 6 jars each. That last jar, I save about ½ an inch out of the bottom pint mason jar, and I use that to culture the next batch. All right. The problem that I found, and you can, other people have said this, I've seen it online. The problem with doing that, and it's not really a problem, it's just a natural process. Eventually, it's going to quit working. You're gonna run out. Something's going to happen, and you're going to run out of culture that does it. And you'll notice if you do it this way, and you're using the culture from your last batch, you'll notice that over time, it gets better and better and better. It gets thicker. It gets a much richer flavor. It gets a little bit more tangy, and it's delicious. So I would recommend, in fact, if you take anything away from this class, go home, get some milk, and start making yogurt. And to incubate it, you can buy a commercial incubator if you want to. Personally, I take a little beer cooler. I fill it with hot tap water. I get the tap water as hot as I can. I stick the jars in it, and I fill it up so that the water is right below the lid, so it's not touching the metal. And then I close it up and I set it underneath the table and I let it set. I usually do this in the evening, and when I get up the next morning, I've got fresh yogurt for breakfast. Right? That's how simple it is. And that's if you want to call to action or a challenge, that's my challenge to you, is to go home and make your own yogurt. It's better for you. It tastes better. Sir.
Did all that and you've got it set there, how long will it just last?
Well, okay, so the question was, how long will it last? I have inadvertently left it in that cooler for over a week, and I've opened it up and it was edible. Now, what I do personally, after I make that batch and I start using it, I take those jars out and I stick them in the refrigerator, and they're going to last just as long as anything else that you make fresh in your refrigerator, right? So it can last. I've had them last for a couple of weeks. I wouldn't recommend it just for safety concerns, but it'll last that long. Ma'am.
Water that you put in the cooler, what you said, warm water or
I turn the tap on as hot as it will go, and I let it get as hot as it'll get, and then I fill it up that way, and I just close the lid, and so it sits in the dark and it incubates overnight, and you've got usable yogurt. You can also, if you have an oven with a proofing setting, for proofing bread, and you don't want to do jars, you want to do a larger batch, do it in the pot, take a towel, wrap it in a towel. As you're making it, turn your oven on and get the proofing set, get it to the proofing temperature, which is right around, for most ovens, right around 110 degrees, and leave it on proofing and stick that in there and just let it set overnight. Or if you don't have a proofing setting, you could probably do it. I've never tried that, but I don't see why it wouldn't work. I mean, it's the same process.
On my sous vide and then just keep it.
Yep. or before we had an oven with we had a gas oven, just an old 1950s style gas oven. I would heat it up. I would let it get to about 210, 220 degrees on the oven. I would turn it off. I would wrap that container that I made the yogurt in, and I would stick it in there, shut the lid, and let it sit overnight. And it would cool down naturally, and by the time the morning came around, all the heat would be dissipated, and I'd have a big batch of yogurt. Right? I found that doing it in mason jars is better because it's. If you can't tell, I have a little bit of a problem with portion control sometimes. So yeah, it just helps it last longer, and it's because it's individually packaged or in the jars, it lasts longer than having it in a big pot. Now, if you've got a big family, that might be the way you want to go. If you want to make a batch every day and you know it's going to be gone at the end of the day or when the morning's over, because all the kids come eat breakfast and you chase them out the door, that may be the better way to do it, right? Okay, so now let's talk about some different dairy products that you can make. You can make these at home. Milk, like I said before, milk is probably the most versatile product you get on your homestead because you can do so much with it. So you can make sour cream. Sour cream is nothing more than fermented cream that has a mesothelic, that cold culture in it. And it does not taste like store-bought sour cream. Personally, the sour cream that I've made, I think tastes better because it doesn't have all the stuff, for lack of a better word. We got small children around, so I don't want to use the word I wanted to use. But it doesn't have that in there. Very easy to make. Very easy to make. The next one, creme fraiche, which is French. It's basically a thicker, richer sour cream that the French use. And you'll find different variations of this in other cultures. The most common name that I found for it was the creme French. Kefir. I don't know if you've ever had kefir. You basically take the probiotic, stick it in it. It's essentially the same process as making yogurt, only you're not cooking it as much, right? But the kefir, again, good probiotics. It's drinkable, and it really helps your gut health. Queso fresco, the Mexican white cheese, the runny Mexican white cheese. You can make that at home. In fact, I made that just recently for the first time. I was experimenting, and it's so delicious. Get it on some burritos or tacos or something, and it's excellent. And then the cultured buttermilk. You remember we were talking about the buttermilk, and I said the milk that comes off of your butter making process is not what you see at the store. The cultured buttermilk, you're doing the process like the big processors do. You're adding culture to it, and you're getting a different flavor. It's much thicker and it's much richer. It's closer to the store-bought buttermilk than the raw buttermilk. All right, so that we're coming to the end of the presentation here, and I want to reiterate some things. This is a very approachable and accessible process for you. If you've got access to raw milk, use it. You don't have to have raw milk. You can use store-bought milk. Stay away from the ultra pasteurized milk. Get out there. The key thing when you're learning to make cheese and do these different things with milk, experiment. Don't be afraid to fail. It's just like everything else in life. If you're not out there trying and failing, you're not moving forward. All right? Learn what works for you. Learn what doesn't. Simple tools, very easy to do, very fun. All right? We got time for some questions? Okay. Hey, time for some questions. We got one in the back there.
Question number 1.
Okay, so I did miss the first part of your talk, so I don't know, maybe you covered this, but can you make like sour cream out of clabber? And did you cover clabber at all?
Yeah,
or
we covered clabber.
Yeah.
I don't know why you couldn't. I've never seen a recipe. The recipe that I used, I did not use clabber. All right.
Okay.
So I cannot speak definitive. Has anybody made sour cream using a clabber? You have so.
Tablespoon of your clabber in your cream, and you let it sit. That's it. It's real easy.
It's the same process. You're just using a different culture.
Okay, so I guess with that, I was trying to figure out like the whole streamlined effect where if you can't be purchasing, the items that you need to put in your products, like, can you be doing that yourself? Is kind of what I
Yes.
was
So
getting at.
the question was, is it sustainable? Is the basic question. Just like making your yogurt, your clabber, whenever you create the next batch of clabber, you're literally taking some of the previous clabber, putting it in the jar with your milk and letting it sit. All right. The very first one, you're doing it without anything added to it, but you can supercharge the process by throwing a little bit of clabber in each time you create a new batch of clabber.
I've heard of other people taking fresh raw milk. So you got to get your raw milk some way, whether from your own cow or whatever. But mixing it 10-to-1 with purified water and using it as a foliar feed to eliminate certain fungal infections on your trees or your orchard or whatever, even on your vegetables.
Yes, I have read about that. I've never done that personally. I do know people that have done that on their garden. They do that. So yes, you can do that. No, hang on, you got one right here.
Okay, so just so I'm clear, so if I were to buy a gallon of milk, do I separate my cream to make my butter, then I use the rest of the milk to make my
Yes.
cheese?
Yes. If you want to make butter. If you don't want to make butter, shake that thing up and use the whole thing to make cheese. You're gonna get a much richer, better tasting cheese. This lady up here had one too, and then
Okay. So when I lived in another country, we had access to milk that did not have the fat taken out. So I'd bring it home from the store. It was given in a bag and put it in the fridge, and I'd get that inches thick coating of cream. Really spoiled to me. I don't have the patience for what we call milk in America at the stores. My kids are grown. I don't really need all of the milk that I would get if I had my own cow. But I would like to resume making all of the wonderful things I could make when I lived overseas. Where can I get actual raw? I don't know if it's raw beef.
okay. So the question is about where we get our milk from, right? If you don't have your own animals, if you don't have that, two things. Number one, build your community and add somebody that's got milk cows. Right, because she's right. If you've got a milk cow, a fully grown milk cow will yield anywhere from 2 to 4 gallons of milk on a regular basis every day. Sometimes more, sometimes a little less. If you've got it and you're milking it, start selling it. I don't care what we should all follow the laws of the land, and we should be law-abiding citizens. With that said, sell it. State of Kansas, you can sell raw milk. There are other states where it's illegal, all right? So you have to do that. It's online. You can look up the different states. Here's something that you can do if you've got a group of people and you're in a state that it's illegal to sell raw milk. Get into a co-op. Buy a milk cow. Find somebody that will take care of it and milk it, and then you get the produce off that cow. You are a partial owner of that cow, so you are legally allowed to get the product from the cow. All right, so find a little. Do what? Yeah, this is true. And remember at the beginning of the presentation, I talked about the USDA and the United States government is in a war against raw milk producers, plain and simple. So civil disobedience is an American tradition.
Okay, I have a couple of questions.
Okay.
First of all, can you speak, I missed the beginning as well, but can you speak to someone who has been taught, like, oh, you have to be really careful about temperature and all of this in terms of how to treat milk, just from like the upbringing and the USDA and all the things they talk about, safe food processing?
Milk safety.
That's kind of what I'm asking.
Absolutely. Okay, as I said before, cleanliness is consistency. All right, so the more stringent you are on following the temperatures right and doing the one, being religiously sanitizing it, you're going to get a more consistent product. If you If you do it wrong, will it hurt you? Just like anything, yes. Okay? Here's the problem. Here's the problem we've run into. The United States government is a nanny state, whether we like it or not. It is a nanny state. And it has taken it the mantle that it is going to protect you from your own stupidity. This is why, up until recently, the ball jar company did not mention water bathing things like pumpkin and meat and all that. From my understanding, the new ball jar book does talk about that now because they've finally come to understand. See, and let's talk about canning food for a second, because you can can milk. All you're doing is pasteurizing it and you stick it in a jar. I've got milk on the shelf that we have canned that is over 5 years old that is still drinkable. All right, tastes like lunch milk, like school lunch milk. That's what it tastes like. Not very good in my opinion. But in a pinch, I'm not going to die, right? So that's what I would say. Follow it. It's all up to you. All right. If you don't feel comfortable being a little more loose on it, do what makes you feel comfortable. All right. But know this. Most of it is the nanny state telling you that you don't need to do it because it's going to hurt you. We got one over here. You got another question?
I did have one more.
Okay, one more question.
Okay, and my second question is, we recently started drinking a lot of raw milk, and I tried making yogurt with it one time, and it turned out terrible. Could you speak to maybe some things I might have done wrong that wouldn't have turned out like every other time I've made yogurt?
Store-bought milk or raw milk? It was raw. Okay, so some of the troubleshooting there. Temperature control could have been an issue. The quality of the milk, it may have sat too long. The way you aged it may have been an issue. There's a lot of moving parts there. All right, and the reason why I tell people to start with making yogurt is because it is such a simple process that there's not as many moving parts in the process as other forms of processing milk. And it's a lot easier to identify where you went wrong and to correct it. So, all right. But hold on, she had her hand up. Okay.
Sorry, you might have covered this. As a substitute for rennet, do you know anything about the ability to use thistle flour?
Yes. So he asked about the vegetable rennet. So thistle flour you can make rennet out of it, and you literally just soak it and use it in liquid form in your thing. There's a certain process to do it, and off the top of my, it's literally as simple as soaking it in milk and using it.
So George Farms in Wellsville, which is south of Olathe, they have a raw milk farm there.
Mm-hmm.
Very easy to get, really good milk. Also, the Instant Pots have a yogurt setting, and it works really well. So I'm culturing individual strains like L. reuteri and L. gasseri, and I'm doing that on the sous vide setting because they need a little bit lower setting. And so I want a clear start. So do you feel like bringing raw milk up to 180 and then just letting it come down? Is that a clear start, or do I need to hold it at 180?
That's a clear start. You don't have to hold it. You just let it get there. Like I said, as soon as you start seeing the steam come off, and you want to stir it during the process. I'm not saying don't stir it at all, because if you don't stir it as it's heating up, you're going to end up scorching the bottom of the pan. All right. But once it starts getting hotter, you let it set for a minute or two, and the vapors will start coming off, and that's a clean start.
If I'm just starting out at making yogurt, do I get a Greek yogurt? Do I get another type of yogurt? I know plain, no
Depends on what you
flavors.
want.
Is there a difference between the Greek yogurt and the regular yogurt as far as the culture?
Yes, there is a difference. The culture that they use in the Greek yogurt gives you that thicker, tangier type of yogurt. The regular yogurt, the just plain old yogurt, gives you that it's not bland, it's not as tangy. Now here's what I do. This is what I do. So there's the Y1C and the AB. I can't remember what the Greek yogurt is. The culture for the Greek yogurt, what I do is I combine them. If I'm using a culture start, store-bought culture start, I combine them. I use a little bit of both, and that gives me a good thing. Oh, one more question. We got one last question, guys. We got to get done. Spags is going nuts here.
I guess mine's an experiment. I've got 2 gallons. I've got the, on top, I got it made the whey or and it's been sitting there for 3 months. It hadn't spoiled. I have one in the refrigerator, one on the table. They don't smell. They haven't changed well. They've got a little darker in color. Some of it's evaporated off. It's got less in the jar, it's gallon jars. But
basically, what I got is a clabber. You've made a clabber. That's what that is. And my only caveat on that is going back to the freshness matters things. I honestly, after letting it set for that long, I don't know how, I honestly don't know how it would react. All right. Because you kept it in the refrigerator. Chances are it's not what you consider spoiled, but I don't know how well it would work in the whole process. And again, try it. See what happens. Share your experience with people. Next time somebody gives a talk on cheese, you'll be able to say, hey, I did this. This is what happened. All right. Yeah, this is great. I love that. I love that he's doing that.
whether to start over or try it or.
At the very least, feed it your chickens. Mix it with the feed, and they'll eat it. I guarantee it.
All right, so I'm going to give you the last question. Where can people find out more about Grumpy Acres Farm, and will you be around today to take more questions if someone thinks about it?
So, speaking to today, I'm going to be here for a little bit. We're down to one vehicle right now. We had a slight accident with the truck radiator. So I'm not going to be here all day long, but I'll stick around and answer any questions you got. We've got a store, grumpyacres.com or grumpyacresstore.com. I don't know how much longer that's going to be around, to be quite honest with you. I may shut it down, but you can always find us on our YouTube channel, Grumpy Acres Farm. I talk about homesteading and prepping, and unfortunately, I have to talk about cultural and political and religious issues on there because these things affect us on a daily basis on our homesteads and in our lives, and we have to be intentionally involved in these things. So we have to. Here's the thing. Here's the thing about everything that I talk about and everything anybody else is going to talk about up here. You have to know your why, right? You have to know why you're doing something. All right, you don't do something just because it is. You have to understand why you're doing it. Why are you being involved in politics? Why are you being involved in your children's school? Why are you doing this? And so to do that, educate yourself. If you want to be food independent, why do I want to be food independent? Because I don't want to put a bunch of poison in my system. Okay, so there's your why. So go out and educate yourself on how to do it, on how to become more food independent or more self-sufficient. Because okay, you open the door. I'm gonna go through it.
I don't limit my speakers. You do what you got to do, boo.
I'm gonna go here. So in case you didn't realize it, I'm gonna tell you. September 10th, 2025, the paradigm changed. All right, the paradigm changed. We're now not only facing one existential threat to our well-being, we are facing two existential threats. Both of these threats want us to submit. They want you to submit to the ideology, and they don't care what you think about it. And they have told you in no uncertain terms that they are willing to kill you for it. They are willing to kill you if you do not submit. All right. The first one, liberal ideology. All right. Liberal ideology is an ideology that traces its roots back to Karl Marx. It is an ideology that ends bloodlines. If you do not submit to it, it will end your bloodline. History is littered with dead bodies to affirm that statement. Right? And the second one is radical Islam. Right? They want you to give up your morals and values and submit to the ideology. Right? You have to be intentional in defense of what you believe in and what you're doing. That's why everything that we talk about here is geared towards one of three things, if not multiple. Food independence. Become more self-sufficient with your food so that you're not dependent on somebody else to keep you alive. All right? Second thing, modern self-sustainability. Learning how to take care of problems with the skills, materials, and tools you have on hand. That's modern self-reliance, all right? And the third one is community. And I would make the argument that community is the most important thing that you will be exposed to here today or this weekend. All right? So we have to be deliberate, and we have to be diligent, and we have to be vehemently aggressive in defending what we believe. But if you don't understand what you believe, what are you going to defend? Right. So there it is. That in a nutshell, that is what this whole thing is about. That's why you're sitting here, and this is what you should take away from it. All right. And I'm sorry that I went there, but it's important. It needs to be said. All right. Sir.
Everybody give it up for G. Grumpy G himself from Grumpy Acres Farm.
Oh, hey, can I, one more thing?
Yeah.
Hey, listen, if you live within about a 2-hour drive of the Topeka area, I do offer a cheese making class. It's an 8-hour class, and I usually between 6 and 10 people, and prices run anywhere depending on what you want out of it, anywhere from $100 to $300. The $300 gets you lunch and about $100 worth of takeaway stuff, so you can go home immediately and start making cheese because you're going to be all enthusiastic after you learned how to make it in person. But if you have a kitchen that can do something like that, I can drive there. Or if you can make the trip up, I live up by the Mayetta area. I've got access to a couple of commercial kitchens up there that we can have the class there. Just contact me. Per person for the class. But you walk away with $100 worth of cheese making supplies, and you get lunch and a spiral bound recipe book. All right. So if you're interested, our email is on our YouTube channel on the about section, and you can contact us anytime. If not, you can contact Bobby, and he can contact me and give you your information. More than happy to do it. I love giving these classes. They're fun, and you walk away knowing how to do it, and you walk away with samples of cheese that you've made yourself. Sorry.
Thank you, G. Give it up for him one more time. Don't be sorry. I am Charlie Kirk. So, in case anyone wondered where I stood on the issue. Next class will be at 1 o'clock. William Bond is going to be stepping in and filling in for Hakeem. Hakeem had a last-minute emergency. He is unable to be here today. So William Bond will be here and doing an extra class. Be here at 1 o'clock for that. Until then, the horses are here. David Crane from the ranch has dropped them off, and children are over there looking. If there are kids here who want to go see the horses, they're up at the very front at the southeast corner of the park area. Until then, go see the lunch vendors, go buy purchase opportunity tickets. Remember, the only way this thing funds itself is those prizes on that white shelf in that tent. $5 a ticket or 5 for 20. Go see the gals and girls. Get your opportunity tickets. Anything that is, if you have a ticket that does not win tonight, keep it, because tomorrow there's a whole nother set of prizes, including maybe one of those scary black rifles that goes bang. What's that? We do the prize.